Hello and welcome to Positive Fandom. I am your host, RM. And of course, we have with us, as always, Russ Whitfield. How are you this morning, Russ?
I'm very good. It's afternoon here, about 3:30 in the afternoon. So yeah, beautiful day in Richmond upon Thames, and I'm excited to hear all about Star Wars Celebration. We've got a lot to talk about today. So yeah, all good stuff. How are you?
I'm very well. Of course, I this has been an incredible week for me, as you've mentioned, Russ. I have been going to Star Wars Celebration,
Mhm.
and it has been fantastic. I also managed to go to Disneyland here in California and go to the park section of Disneyland called Galaxy's Edge, which is where they have the Millennium Falcon and a bunch of Star Wars themed rides and shops, as well as people who, the cast members who dress up as different characters of the Star Wars universe. And good morning to you, Keely Chow.
Hey, Keely.
Hope you are well today. And good morning, Tom Jr. Jackson. We are all goof people. Certainly, Tom Jr. Jackson, moderator and collaborator.
Mhm.
I hope you are well today.
The man, the
So
legend.
absolutely the legend. Um, I have to say, and good morning to you, Louis Libetz, morning
Well,
crew.
hello.
Hope all had an awesome Star Wars celebration week and month. Yes, this has been an incredible week. And Mario Lopez is here with us today.
Hey, Mario. How are you?
So good to see you, Mario. Renz Tolentino, guys. Good morning to all. Yes, good morning to you guys. Make sure you check out Renz's artwork on Instagram, everybody, as he's checking in today. Good to see you, Renz. Um, yeah, Russ, this has been an incredible week with Star Wars Celebration. Um, the first time that I've ever gone to Disneyland this week. Yes, I did take my mother to Disneyland. She loved it, and we went to Galaxy's Edge, which is the name of the park inside of Disneyland Park that has the Star Wars themed shops, and it was absolutely amazing, Russ. I have been hearing about it all these years, and I've never been able to go to it. So this was very exciting for me, especially right before Star Wars Celebration.
hmm So, what was the whole deal with Star Wars Celebration for those of us that don't know anything about it?
Well, Star Wars Celebration is a specifically centered Star Wars convention that takes place every few years. And the convention obviously now focuses on all the shows and movies that are coming out, the stars who star in these shows, artists who are committed to being creators surrounding products and items dedicated to the show, as well as excuse me, as well as fans. Sorry, fans who are huge supporters of Star Wars, who enjoy their creations as well, cosplay, attending panels about Star Wars. And also, there's a bunch of people who create games and artwork, uh, clothing, jewelry centered around Star Wars. There's also for people who are pretty much just enjoying hearing the new changes to Disneyland parks, which are associated with Star Wars, of course, because they own Star Wars now. Uh, and there's so much going on. It's a 4-day event, Russ. It really has been such an incredible. Um, it's been an incredible Star Wars celebration, Russ. It's been
So, is it uh, like a traditional con where there's booths and you can buy stuff? And are there? I caught a little bit of it on a live stream, and I saw the Emperor up on stage doing a bit of a talk. Ian McDiarmid. Um, so there was a lot of that. Did you get a chance to go to any signings? And hello, Sith Scale Separatist.
Hi, the Scale Separatist. Hello, and chat. So good to see you. Yes, I didn't pay. You have to pay. You usually have to pay for an autograph or a photograph, and I didn't get any of those
Mhm.
this time round. I just decided not to do that for a number of reasons, but I was fortunate enough to there's a number of panels that happen during the daytime that people really want to attend, and I managed to get 2 days out of the 4 days, Thursday and Friday, and I brought my mother to the panels. I did manage to attend a panel with McDermott. There's a conversation with him, as well as see a screening of the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, a screening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time after the con ended for, with, and the screening had Ewan McGregor there. Hayden Christensen was there. Deborah Chow, who directed the episodes, was also there,
Mhm.
along with other cast and crew members to watch the first 2 episodes together. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it was incredible to have that. Hayden Christensen walked right by me,
Mm.
and I didn't snap a photograph of him, and I had kind of looked at the other, people who were standing next to me. None of us snapped a photograph, and I said, "We're not amateurs. We've done this before. We knew he was gonna be here. Why were our cameras not ready?" But, it was just so much fun to see the stars in these panels.
Mhm.
I also took my mother to 2 other panels. One of them was called Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic, where they talked about how they did the, uh, special effects and creations of in all of the movies. And of course, there were people, very famous people from that branch of Lucasfilm through the years. They started in the 70s, so a lot of these people happen to still be around. So it was nice to see them talk about it. They're coming out with a documentary. It may already be on Disney Plus now, but Ron Howard was one of the people who was on that panel, and that was fantastic. And
Richie
then
Cunningham himself.
absolutely,
Sit on it, Cunningham.
absolutely, yeah, he's pretty much the same, just, with less hair.
Yeah.
Um, so he's kind of kept himself up, and, it was great to see him, and everybody was like, "We want Solo too," and he was like, "I don't have any control over that," and it was just kind of very, a lot of fun kind of, back and forth. And there was one other panel, which it's escaping me, that we watched. Oh, yes, the 20th anniversary of the Attack of the Clones, and of course, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen showed up for that. Ashley Eckstein was there, along
Mhm.
with Tamora Morrison and Daniel, who plays the young Boba Fett, as well as Anthony Daniels and Doug Chiang, who does a lot of the special effects stuff, practical special effects, I guess,
Mhm.
as well as a sound engineer who makes that really cool sound of this bomb that Boba Fett used a lot
Mhm.
in the show. And hello, Liam Lionheart. How are
Uh,
you today?
Another member named after a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, so now we got Bloodsport and Lionheart. What's going on?
Absolutely. I think we better start doing some reviews of those movies,
Oh,
Russ.
100%. You know me. I know them all backwards.
And Scott Westbrook, good morning to you as
So,
well.
hey, Scott, and hey, Liam Lionheart. I have a question. Did you, because I don't think it's leaked onto the internet as yet, did you see the Ashoka uh, trailer?
No, I didn't see the Ahsoka trailer, sadly. It did, they did premiere, but I was not at the panel because I think that one, I don't know where it was premiered. I think it might have been premiered on yesterday, and I didn't have any panels to attend. I didn't get the lottery. It's a lottery that you get
Right.
go to it, and I didn't get anything yesterday. So no, I haven't seen it. And I'm really curious as to what it's like. And from
Here,
what I understand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry. No, you go ahead.
From what I understand, it was leaked, as you said, but then they pulled it down.
Right. So here is Bloodsport. We were just saying Bloodsport. Now we've got Liam Lionheart. So now we've got two JCVD uh, movie handles in the chat, and Mikey Leto's here.
Yes, yes. Mikey Lito. Good morning to you, Mikey Lito. It's always wonderful to see you here.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mikey.
and Bloodsport has a question. I'm so sorry, guys. Bloodsport has a question. Good morning, RM and Russ. Did you enjoy Kenobi? I can't believe the hate, he says. Well, Russ, did you see Kenobi since Bloodsport is asking this question?
I did. I have. Um, I'm not proud. I don't have Disney Plus, but I knew we were going to be talking about it on this show, so I found a way. Um, yeah, what did you think? You
Well,
got to see it in the crowd with all the people and the raving Star Wars loons.
yes.
So,
I loved it. Of course, there was just some continuity situations in the story with the Inquisitor for me, but other than that, I did like it a lot. I thought Ewan shined on the screen. He's like a light on the screen. The camera just loves him, and I think that he was for me the center of the story. You know, he has to deal with a lot of things, and as I predicted, Russ, in another stream, or maybe it was this stream, I had said, wouldn't it be something if Obi has to go and help Leia out? You know, and I said that a few weeks ago in another stream, I think. And sure enough, oh gosh, spoilers.
yeah, we
Spoiler,
better put the little tag along, but that's
yeah, I'm gonna
not a
do that.
spoiler. That plot detail has come out. That's the
Oh, it
thrust.
has?
That's the thrust of it. Yeah, we kind of all know about that. But yes, from here on in, spoilers, I guess.
Yes, and, yes, I guessed it, so I had a feeling that might be happening in the story. I thought that the girl who played Leia was adorable, and Jimmy Smits, boy, when he got on the screen, there was such a like a roar of support for him, and he looks great. He also looks really good.
Hmm.
So I really liked seeing Alderaan because we don't get to see Alderaan that much,
No,
especially
that's true.
destroyed, you know, it's gone, so, I'm really curious. I was always curious as to how it looked, and we got a sneak peek of it was beautiful, yeah, so what
Yeah,
did
it was great to see Jimmy Smits. I don't know quite how old he is now. Clearly, obviously, he's a lot older than he was 30 years ago, as we all are. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, form is temporary, class is permanent. Jimmy Smits was on, geez, Law and Order back in the day, wasn't he? And then obviously on to Star Wars. Guy's quality, quality, quality actor. But if you're talking about quality actors, Ewan McGregor, look no further. The guy is incredible as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Has always been, has made that role, his own, as much as it is Alec Guinness's now. Um, yeah. So, what did I think of it? I thought it was okay. Um, uh, I'm in a different camp to you. I thought the little girl that played Princess Leia was a dead ringer for Carrie Fisher. I mean, they couldn't have picked it. It was almost like they'd cloned her, and this is like the early life clone. I mean, she she acted as directed. I just found her a little bit irritating, and I kind of wish that you'd have been wrong and they hadn't gone down the Princess Leia route. It could have been any number. Oh, thanks, Mikey. Jimmy Smith's 66, so no age really. Um, yeah, they could have. There was any number of missions that they could have done, and I don't mind the member berries so much. I'm not an anti-member berry person. Like I loved it when Obi-Wan Kenobi left that little the Lambda class spaceship as a toy for Luke Skywalker, and of course we see him playing with that in the New Hope when he's talking to 3PO and R2. I just little touches like that I think are really really fantastic. So that doesn't bother me. Oh my God, Edgerton as Owen Lars. Talk about acting. That guy, those two, when they were having that scene together, they're both classically trained actors. They're both, Shakespeare coming out of the ears. You can see it. They deliver this crap with, absolute sincerity. And yeah, they play up. I think with a script that isn't great. Um, they make it into it, they make some of that dialogue really really sing. So yeah, not a fan of the whole Princess Leia thing. As I said, give me another mission. I'm not interested in that, but that's what we've got. The Inquisition. Yeah, what six scale separatists is saying here. I'm with you, mate. I was like, okay, the first one, I was getting a bit bored by the end of it. Like it didn't sustain me. I think there was too much princess and too much Inquisition. Now, on the Inquisition themselves, huge fan of all of them. I don't like the actress that they've got, Reva. Is that her name?
Right.
Is that's her
Her
name? Yeah.
name is Moses Ingram.
Yeah, Moses Ingram, but the character's Reva, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I wonder if it's a play on Darth Revan. Maybe. Don't know. I suspect not. Um, this is personal. I don't like her style. I don't like the way she delivers these lines. I'm not sure that she, to me, and I don't wonder how you feel on this. She's irritating in a way. I get that she's supposed to be insubordinate and headstrong and all of that. That's what they're shooting for. But she just comes across as irritating to me, and I sort of found myself wondering why the Inquisition is keeping her around, because even your base Star Wars knowledge guy, knows that the Inquisition is a hierarchical organization that has, commands absolute loyalty, right? That you have to do as you're told. She's the third sister, and why are they keeping her around? So didn't like her so much, but I understand the role that she's going to play. Um, and yeah, I can put up with her. But the Inquisition themselves, they were cool as shit. I mean, they really were. They really were cool. And I don't know the actor that plays the main, the Grand Inquisitor, but in a sort of uh, McDiarmid way, he seems to be hamming this up quite a bit. But not like with the sort of like perverse glee that McDiarmid has. This guy's more. He's a bit of a Blackadder alike. He's just bored by the whole thing, and why won't people do what he's telling them to do? And oh god, not the Jedi again. Yeah, he's coming across like that. So I really, really enjoyed that part of it. But yeah, but what did you think of the characters themselves?
Well, I would have to say I agree with you. I think outside of Kenobi himself, and let's say outside of uh um Owen,
Hmm.
for me the strongest characters were the Inquisitors.
Mm,
And it was Rupert Friend who plays the Grand Inquisitor.
he was awesome.
He was incredible. He was also there that night when we watched the show. Um, I felt that it was very hard. We look at these trailers that they send us, and also, by the way, Michael Lito says I'm not a Star Wars aficionado, so it's the basis for hate. I thought it was cool. Mario Lopez says I didn't like Kenobi. It seems that we have a casting error for Leia too young to the point of not being able to run, and the actress who plays Reva is also not the LV of what would be needed
At the
level of
level,
the
yeah, that this
right.
is it, Mario. So I just I think when she's acting opposite the likes of Sun Kang and Rupert Friend and all that, and especially Friend, right? He's just got this, yeah, gravitas and this boredom, and he's so powerful and blah, blah, blah. Maybe she'll come into her own like later on. I don't think she's the strongest actress, but I like the character. I like what they seem to be wanting to do with her, but her delivery of that is letting this character down, I think.
Yeah, and I am gonna talk about that too. Guys, check out Mikey Lito's YouTube channel and subscribe.
Yes.
Mikey Lito has his own channel, so do please check that out, guys. And Mikey Lito mentions, "Isn't Leia supposed to be a bit of a brat? She is a free-spirited." And hello, Darth Plato.
Ave Darth Plato.
And we also have Darth Plato says, interestingly enough, in defense of Reva, she seems to be tapping into the model of the Sith,
Yep.
the philosophy itself destructive
Yeah,
and
sorry, Aram. Let me just come onto that. Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, because they do the whole point of the law of two is eventually the pupil will, or the apprentice will kill the master. I get all of that. It's just her delivery of it is, I feel it is lessening the. I would, you know what I was thinking to myself, and I know she's probably too old, but if they can afford to do all this stuff with these billions of. I just thought, can you imagine Charlize in that role? I just kept thinking to myself, if Charlize doing it, Charlize Theron being the third sister, and I thought, fuck it, that is someone of that caliber would carry that off. She would rule in that, or indeed Rosario, but she's already
She's already
Ashoka, isn't she?
right?
Mhm. Yeah. So
Well,
it's not an attack of Reva herself, or even an attack on the actress Darth Plato. It's just uh, as I think it was Mario was saying, she's just, when you've got all these powerhouses, Jimmy Smits, Rupert Friend, Ewan McGregor, all of these people around you, your inexperience, your lack of experience is going to come out. I think for a lot of people, and she's got such a lot of weight on her shoulders, because she's obviously um, the second lead of the show, right? So it's not just Obi-Wan's story; it's her story as well. I think, yeah, she's not for me, but hopefully she'll get better.
well, good morning to Brother Cousins Toy Reviews. Good morning to you, Brother Cousins.
Hello.
Always wonderful to see you guys. He does such wonderful 1/6 scale and figure reviews on Brother Cousins YouTube channel. Guys, go ahead and subscribe to Brother Cousins. We do have our link here. Guys, please check out Brother Cousins Toy Reviews. You won't regret it. And he is a wonderful person as well. I've streamed with him. It's so much fun to be on his channel. So please do check it out. And good morning to you, Brother Cousins, everybody. It's very interesting that when we talk about these characters, because, they give us these trailers, Russ,
Mhm.
and we're supposed to figure out what's going on from the trailer, and it's like a little teaser thing. And for me, the trailer didn't reflect anything at all what this series was going to be like. And I loved the trailer. I thought it was wonderful. It was exciting. It felt very cinematic.
It really did.
Feeling that I got from the Inquisitors, and I've seen the Inquisitors either in other films, I think, but mostly in the Clone Wars. These Inquisitors were terrifying to me.
Mhm.
And especially, not only Rupert Friend, who is the Grand Inquisitor, but Sung King, who is the fifth brother, and he has like this mechanical attachment where he talks and he's like, "What will we do?" Like it sounds very kind of robotic,
Mhm.
and he terrified me because I've always imagined Inquisitors to be very, they have been broken by Darth Vader or whoever has trained them,
Mhm.
and now they are almost like dominions, like slaves to Darth Vader and the Emperor. And so they just follow what is told very calmly. And there's an Inquisitor they call the second sister in Jedi Fallen Order, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen. And she's very smooth and calculating. So to see this Inquisitor, and I don't know if there have been other Inquisitors like Riva, who have been, somewhat more aggressive, but wanting to kind of move up the chain. And I thought to myself, well, this is a chain that is impossible to move up on. You can't really move up on this chain. It's whatever, the emperor wants, right?
Mm.
Because Darth Vader doesn't make decisions. He always has to refer back to the emperor. And so the idea of trying to be ambitious in this type of environment is, it's a fantasy. You
Yeah.
know, even if you get rewarded, it's not what you think it is. There's always the shoe's going to drop, and
Mm.
it's going to be horrible, and it'll be something that you don't want to do, but you have to obey it. And so I think that term, the price of some of the people in the dark side, especially if you have not been entirely dark yourself, which I imagine Reba has not been. I have a
Well,
feeling
I think she was supposed to be the little girl at the beginning in the Jedi Temple, right? Because they did the flashback, which was epic. It was really cool to see the flashback of the Clone Wars and stuff like that. And then the Jedi that's protecting the younglings gets killed, and one of them says, "Oh, we better get out of here." And it's a little black girl. I think that's supposed to be her. Um, so we don't. Yes, it was, but it's kind of similar to the Mandalorian, don't you think? Sith Scale, didn't that open up in a pub as well? Where all the best adventures start, all the best Dungeons and Dragons adventures. Anyway, yeah. So I think that's her. What we don't know is why she has it in for Ben Kenobi so much. But
well,
I guess we'll find out.
my suspicion is that Ben Kenobi was one of her teachers and somehow in the temple. And so there's some kind of beef. And we kind of saw something like that in although it wasn't necessarily directed towards a former master in Jedi Fallen Order. One of the Inquisitors was being trained. She was the Padawan of
Mm,
one of the other Force users who had decided to step away from the Force, but she escaped the Empire after Order 66, and unfortunately, her Padawan, was captured by the dark side and forced to do what had to be done. And I think it's very interesting, the submission that they've had to go through, almost implied in Jedi Fallen Order that not every Inquisitor necessarily has a choice. Like, this is, once you're captured by them, you're pretty much going to have to do what you're being told. And I'm not an expert on Inquisitors. What I can say is that the Inquisitors scared me, but Riva, that character, she didn't scare me. But the other character played by the fifth brother, he was
mhm,
the one that scared me the most because he was so committed to what the Grand Inquisitor was telling him to do, almost like an understanding. We have to kill 50 people. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. Like, it was kind of like, the orders will be followed no matter what. And to see that level of dedication, no matter what it is, to never question it, is
mm.
was more terrifying to me than someone who was kind of questioning it.
Which
So,
we get, right? I mean, even as a person that doesn't know anything about Star Wars, okay, you just coming into the show cold, you get it that that's a very, very hierarchical thing, which is why I don't like the way that the character's going, or the way that it's being performed. It's kind of like, no, you need to be a little bit more subtle about what you're doing, because clearly Reva is just, you know, literally disobeying every single order she's given at this point. And I don't think the Inquisition would stand for it, no matter how powerful she is. And I think, yeah, Asajj Ventress, that would be awesome. But I think, um, they're sort of cherry picking from the expanded universe now, aren't they? But yeah, I think, look, the plot has to happen, okay? Because if they're keeping her around because she's, amazing at uh, reading minds, that seems to be her sort of big thing. Then she does this in episode 2 clearly, but doesn't do it in episode 1, where they've got a hot take, and they know that there's a Jedi on this planet, and she's standing right in front of Owen, and she threatens Owen with her lightsaber, and she says she's going to do this. Well, just read his fucking mind, and then she'd know. So there's a little bit of plot, because the story has to happen going on in this show. So again, yeah, it's okay, it's pretty good, but not great as
uh,
far as I'm concerned.
well, Mario Lopez says all the other Inquisitor actors were so great. And thank you, Paul in Long Beach. Good morning to you, saying California is looking lovely on you. You're looking very tan. Well, thank you so much, Paul in Long Beach. I so enjoy that. And it's very kind of you. Bloodsport says, "Good morning, Space Pimp." That is that is Brother Cousins. Guys, please make sure you check out Brother Cousins' channel this morning. Um, and also, Mikey Lito says, "I don't think Reva is interested in what her position is. She's interested in pressing Vader and could care less what her compatriots think." And I think that's very interesting, Mikey Lito, because you can't impress Darth Vader. Like, unfortunately, in my opinion, Darth Vader doesn't care what anyone thinks except himself. So, he has to follow the commands of the Emperor, but there is no one who makes any impression on Darth Vader. He's the GOAT of all time. So, and he knows it. Um, so I think Reva is a little, she's a fantasy if she thinks, let's say, none of us do we really believe that anyone could impress Darth Vader? Isn't he like the greatest
Oh yeah, I guess, but maybe her intention. I don't know about that, Mikey. I think it strikes me that it's more to do perhaps with her personal quest for vengeance against Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the fact she wants to deliver his head on a platter to Darth Vader it's kind of too, but it seems more personal than just wanting to impress Vader. So there seems to be twofold. Yes, she wants to impress him, but more, a change in position. Maybe she wants to become the Grand Inquisitor, but it seems like her personal hatred or betrayal or whatever it is that she's got going on with Obi-Wan, um, has overtaken her judgment a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned something about this, Russ, about how her abilities to let's say read minds. That perhaps there are certain force abilities that individuals excel at that are more desirable for inquisitors, and that would seem to be a desirable thing to be able
Mhm.
to really just go ahead and read somebody, and it doesn't really matter whether they're telling you the truth or not. You can just pull it out of them, and I thought a lot of force users could just do that. I'm not sure, honestly, but what I can say is it is true that it seemed in the beginning when she was questioning people that I said, "Gee, Owen is Owen gonna get killed here? Because, he's lying to her. Doesn't she know this is, so I questioned that a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, maybe Owen himself has some force stealth in him. Who knows, what's really happening, but the chemistry between Owen and, um, yeah, Ewan McGregor, Owen and Ewan. Um, it was phenomenal. They have, he's got this animosity towards him, and it wasn't necessarily resentful, but boy, he is angry at Obi-Wan for
But it
even
was a
reaching
great it was a
out.
great performance, wasn't it? Because he was really channeling the original actor, of grumpy old Owen Lars from the 70s. Um, it was yeah, those guys just know what they're doing. I also like that he had his I don't know what the creature he's the thing that Obi-Wan Kenobi rides around on, but it was
Right,
kind of cool. Yeah, because he had that at the end. That's where he delivered the baby to Owen and Beru. He was on that little horse thing, and he still got the horse thing 10 years later, which I thought was really nice. So yeah, first episode. Yeah, I think it was a little bit long. I wasn't wanting more. I certainly didn't go straight to episode two after I'd seen it. I was like, okay, well, jury's out. Um, Episode two, however, I thought was a marked improvement. But again, we had this. Princess Leia seems to have this like amazing ability, even though she can't really run that fast. That 6 or 7 grown men can't catch her, and now an ex Jedi Knight can't catch her when she decides to run away. So I'm not enjoying her character so much, but I did like it when they got to that planet. What is it called? The sort of grimy criminal planet that they go to, and it
right.
almost looked like a number of years ago they were going to make a Star Wars TV show, and it got to the extent where they were building sets and they'd shot extras and things like that, and that looked to me very much like it was harkening back to that particular set. Hello, Mark Nedal, by the way. Morning to you
Yes.
as well.
Hi, Mark Nino.
Um, what I did like actually in episode two, and I made a note about this, which because I really really enjoyed it, when it gets to the unarmed combat. I thought it was really cool that Obi-Wan Kenobi and vis-a-vis Jedi would be trained in Aikido. I just absolutely loved that. That you see, that's really nerdy. That is like going down into the reason. What sort of martial arts style would they have? Well, obviously they don't want to hurt people. They want to use their own force against them. All that stuff. So using this Aikido, I thought was perfect, and I like the way it wasn't clean. Like he's obviously rusty. He hasn't, he's been hiding for such a long time. Um, I really like the inclusion of the fake Jedi, and was a little bit disappointed with his, sudden about face. It was kind of, well, why would he do that? We could have done with a little bit more about that. But on the whole, this was a decent, an improvement on the first one. It was only half an hour. This one. Um, so I think that's more in keeping with Mando, with that sort of length, and I quite liked it, even though it's not a you know baddie of the week story like Mando tends to be. It's an ongoing thing, but yeah, episode two pretty good. But yeah, I'm not gelling with Leah and Reva, which is I think going to be a problem for me down the road unless things change markedly.
Yes, and hello, Doc Smizzle to you. Uh, so good to see you this morning. He says, "I hope episode 3 really sells me on Reva because right now I'm not buying it." And Mark Netto says she's a bit of a bull in the china shop, the character. And it says, Mary Lopez says, even the other Inquisitor sister looks more interesting than Reva. She was very annoying. Now, Brother Cousin says, I liked Rio's performance better in the second episode. Yes. Um, I did as well. And also, I'm losing my spot. Um, Six Scale Separatist says, on a positive note, the world building was cool. The new planet and all the cool looking bounty hunters. I agree.
Yeah, it looked amazing, that, didn't it?
It really did. The other thing I was gonna say is, after I saw of course, it was in a later episode, but, initially when I had heard about the series, I thought to myself that I didn't necessarily wanna see a whole bunch of scenes where, Obi-Wan is kind of riding that creature in the desert, and I had said, "We've seen a lot of that," and, I think that we definitely need to be off-world, we definitely need to see some different scenery in this. And while it is true that we had to establish that he has this little bunker right near where, or at least it appears where Luke and his family live, so that he has access. The Jawas seem to be able to find him. He seemed to be
Mhm.
relatively findable. And if the Jawas could find it, it almost made me wonder if the Jawas could do it, why couldn't the Empire find him? So that was another question that I had to ask, because I wondered how he could hide there and be almost virtually undetectable. But if a Jawa can find it and not only find him and steal his equipment and sell it back to him, why isn't the Empire, on his heels?
Well,
Why isn't he? So that was
they're handcuffed by canon, aren't they? I mean, look, the way that the story sort of developed from, Star Wars, The New Hope through to Return of the Jedi, and then we get the prequels and all that sort of thing, and now we've got all this in between stuff. Really, if I was a Jedi and I'd survived Order 66, the last thing I would do would be to move back to my biggest enemy's home planet and only change my first name. You know, so like, yeah, another Kenobi. Oh, well, maybe we better check this guy out. Even though his name's Ben. So there's a lot of stuff that you've got to. It was for kids originally, wasn't it? And as we've just continued to love it over the past, 45 years or whatever it is since it come out. But the, the people that are writing it today are shackled by canon. So yeah, calling yourself Ben Kenobi is a pretty dumb idea but when Star Wars was done, we had no idea the Inquisition were looking for him, and all this stuff is coming in later. So you got to forgive it, I guess.
Yes, and, Mikey Lito goes on to say, "Vader cares about the results and he wants Kenobi. You don't think that would impress him?" No, I don't think it would. I think the only person who was ever able to impress Vader, after he became Vader, was his son Luke. So, I think every encounter that he seemed to have with everyone else, if they were in his way, he would, strike them down. And, he wasn't altruistic at this point. I think it was Luke who was the one who made him an altruistic person. He doesn't actually care about whether they get Kenobi or not. He's going to follow the orders of the Emperor. I don't think he has a motivation to get Kenobi necessarily. I think that the Emperor's desire is to get Kenobi. I don't think Vader ever wanted to kill off all those other Jedi. I think he did it because he was ordered to do it. So, his motivations, I think, are slightly different. I think if she wanted to impress the Emperor, maybe, but I don't think that was really Vader's. It's something that he's deeply rooted in and is important to him. Um, but here, Darth Plato says the officer in the early scene in A New Hope was the one who could speak to Vader even remotely freely, as if George hadn't yet decided that Vader was unapproachable as he would be in the Empire. So, that's something else
You
that
make a good point as well, because when he's force choking, is it not Admiral Ozzel? I forget who he's force choking in the room, and Grand Moff Tarkin says, Vader, enough, release him, and he's, Grand Moff Tarkin's giving the orders. So he really, is at this stage still a henchman, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And but Darth Plato says, so there is a precedent for impressing Vader enough to be able to address him freely. um, for a lucky few. Doc Smizzle agrees with you that Forest Chase scene, or whoever said it, I'm sorry if it wasn't you, Russ, was very jarring. You did say it,
Hmm.
but I can somewhat forgive it for now. Um, and Paul in Long Beach says, "Gee, have you ever tried to catch a child in Disneyland?" Good for you, Paul. That actually made me laugh. Um, And Tom Jr. Jackson talks about how the Or Lars was played by Phil Brown in Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Absolutely. Um, and also, Retro Nerd Girl is here. Hello, Retro Nerd Girl.
Hello.
She says, I hope the rest of the season is off Tatooine. Yes, because it will lead the Empire right to Luke. Absolutely. And this was something that I think is very interesting how they're going to work these details out. And it's not that I don't mind seeing Luke. I almost wish this had happened when Obi was off world versus being on Tatooine.
I
So
think as well, for even from production point of view, they must have heard that, well, Mando spends all his time on Tatooine. Boba Fett spends all his time on Tatooine. We've kind of seen it. Their audience needs to see something else. Mando spends a lot of his time on Tatooine anyway, and Boba Fett certainly does. So, kind of need a change of scenery, I think.
absolutely. And hello to you, Retro Nerd Girl, again, guys.
Hello, Rick Nogo.
Subscribe to Retro Nerd Girl's channel. The Outcast Creatives, afternoon, guys.
Hi,
After
Outcasts.
you. Highs, opening sequence, Jedi Temple attack, Ewan, MC, Jimmy Smits, Look of New Worlds, lows, worst chase sequences, and walking into a tree branch in celluloid history. Good points there. Outcast Creatives, do subscribe to the Outcast Creatives channel. Mark Meadow makes a good point, saying at least we get to see 3 planets in this episode.
Right.
I agree. And Doc Smizzles makes an interesting point. Star Wars is so rich with lore, but every tiny on the grand scheme of planetary adventures. I always thought perhaps it was because it would cost less money to stay on one planet in a production, but yeah. And here it says, Paul in Long Beach makes a good point. Seriously, wouldn't Reva go directly to Alderaan and confront Bail Organa? I
Well,
know I would.
she can't at the moment. I think. Well, we know actually that the Senate hasn't been dissolved yet, and the Senate won't be dissolved for another 10 years. All right. So at this moment, uh, Palpatine, like Augustus, is kind of the first emperor, but there's still a Senate, and there's still the lip service that he's doing as they wish, or he's enacting what the Senate wants at this stage. So I wonder if that's the excuse for them not doing the blindingly obvious. You know.
Yes, and please do check out the Outcast Creatives YouTube channel. The link is here in the chat, guys, for interesting interviews. They interviewed someone from the new Andor series, or will be interviewing them. So please check out the Outcast Creative if you want some more Star Wars information. And Latino Slant Polly, how are you this morning? I sure hope you are well. Latino Slant says perhaps Kenobi is a very common last name like Smith. Uh,
Maybe.
Perhaps in that universe, right? And do check out Latino Slant's channel. He also has a review of Kenobi with Tom Conkle, as well as a new review. Check out Paulie's channel. He always has something interesting and exciting going on in entertainment on Latino Slant's channel. So please do check that out. And also, here's Retro Nerd Girl's link to her channel, guys. Um,
Mhm. Check
certainly
it
look.
out. It's brilliant. I'm a massive fan. As I said, I didn't know about it until a couple of weeks ago, but now I'm well into it. Great channel.
Absolutely. And Darth Plato points out some interesting information. In the beginning of Star Wars, Tatooine was supposed to be the planet from the farthest from. Somewhere along the line, Tatooine is now a hub. Hmm.
Yeah, because everyone was born there.
Yes, and that interview that I was referring to for the on the Outcast Creates channel is tonight with Charlie Parker Swift, who is in 2 episodes of Andor, everybody. So
Yeah, cool.
please go ahead and check out the Outcast Creative tonight with Charlie Parker Swift, who will be in 2 episodes of Andor. Andor, that particular trailer looked fascinating. I'm like, it feels very Star Wars to me, and I'm wondering what is going on. I want to know more. So I'm definitely going to check out that interview. What did you
Mm.
think of the trailer for Andor,
I
Russ?
forgot to watch it. I'm sorry. I was actually looking for the Ahsoka one to see if it, because why would I want to look up Ahsoka? Oh, two reasons: Rosario and Dawson.
Yes.
Yes, that'll be why.
Well, I
Yeah,
got to see Rosario Dawson in the flesh yesterday at Star Wars Celebration on their live stage,
mhm,
and she was wonderful, along with the actress who's going to be playing Sabine Wren, as
mm,
well as Giancarlo Esposito, as well
mm,
as Ewan McGregor, as well as the guy who plays Black K.
mhm.
It was an incredible day, and I was with El Profesoro. Hello, El Profesoro. Good morning to you. And guys, El Profesor also has a channel here on YouTube. Please do check out his channel to learn more about figures and collecting. Certainly do check it out. Good morning to you.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think Outcast creative interview with Charlie Parker Swift is 8 o'clock GMT, 2000 hours GMT. So do your maths, guys, on the
absolutely.
states.
We will do our maths. Darth Plato says the point of dissolving the Imperial Senate was that Palpatine felt it was no longer needed, as the Death Star made the Empire's power, excuse me, unapproachable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Because if anybody disagreed with him, he could just blow up their homeworld, which is eventually what he does with Alderaan anyway. And now I'm upset I haven't seen Andor trailer, so I can't really comment on it. But
Well,
yeah,
the Outcast Creative mentions that it did capture the look of the universe for him, and Rosario could be playing Max Rebo, and I would still watch every episode. And
I
Max
know.
Rebo is one of my favorite characters because I just want to hug him. He looks kind of huggable and squishy, and he's so adorable looking to me. And I'm sure I'm the only person who, in the galaxy who feels this way about Max Rebo, but I don't care. I just
Mhm.
love him. Um, and so the Outcast Creative is telling us, yes, that's right. That's 3 p.m. Eastern and 12 o'clock, I guess, here where I am now. And here is the link for El Profesoro's YouTube channel. Do check out El Profesoro's YouTube channel, guys. You will enjoy the content there for sure. And so, going on about this Kenobi episode, a very famous musician called Flea played one of the um, bounty hunters to kidnap Leia. Um, and I think what's kind of interesting about all of this is that if they could pick any kind of um, character or uh, personality for Leia as a young girl, this is what I would imagine she would be like.
Mhm.
However, I think that Leia also is starting to understand the importance of politics in this entire makeup. And while she's kind of rejecting it a little bit, she has this role as a princess, and a lot of the family knows that she's not really related to them. Like they made a point of saying that you're a young girl who's been adopted,
Mm.
and she's aware of it, and she keeps trying to kind of read people, which I
Well,
think is
that's them retconning the fact that she never had any force abilities until suddenly they decided that they needed her because they're you know for whatever reasons that she needed to become a Jedi. So now they're trying to sort of shoehorn that stuff in there to back up the not so great sequels where all that stuff sort of came to light by and large. I mean, we know that she had the Force because Luke says it in Return of the Jedi, but she was never a Jedi up until recently.
yes,
Then we
and
got the Max Rebo fan club coming out the woodwork.
that's who knew? Thank you for the support, guys, for Max Rebo. And he did survive the bombing at the Jabba's, or not Jabba's, at the I think it's called the
The skiff on the skiff.
yes, as well as the one in Boba Fett series. I think it
Oh
was
yeah, 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 yeah.
February. He did survive that. So apparently we have 6.5 people and growing in our fan club. So Darth Plato says, "What I'm wondering is whether the kids that escaped the Kenobi opening will tie into Grogu somehow, since we know where Grogu is there. I don't know. I have to wonder myself um, whether one of these people saved Grogu or not, or whether he's going to be in this. I'm kind of hoping not, as an actual, um, let's say real time. I'd rather see him in a flashback again, see somebody grab Grogu. But I thought perhaps the kids escaping the Kenobi Temple, and you mentioned this already, Russ,
Mhm.
was to tell us about was to really tell us about Riva's background, and that she may have been one of the children in that they captured. So then, this is something that I have to wonder about because I'm not quite sure whether they're implying that they ran and they escaped and then they were found. And since they were not killed in the temple, they were kept somewhere. These are some questions that I have, and I'm sure we're going to find out more about that. And perhaps something happened along the way. Perhaps she reached out to Kenobi somehow. And
Well, again, it's look, it's canon that they're wrestling with here, because I would say, well, perhaps the clone troopers' orders were to kill all the Jedi, but save the younglings, because then they can convert the younglings into Sith and brainwash them and all the rest of it. But we know that that's not the case, because we know that Anakin goes in and kills all the younglings, which is like his sort of like the most horrific thing you could do, is to kill a bunch of kids with a lightsaber. In the Star Wars universe, at least. Um, so I imagine that they got caught. That's kind of the point, isn't it? That some of the kids were caught, and those who could not be turned, they will be destroyed, which is kind of the dark side method. And a lot of some of the Jedi just thought, well, sod it, I'll throw my lot in with the Sith then. As in I don't know the history of the Inquisitor or the fifth brother, but I imagine that they were not children. I imagine they were either Darksiders before or Jedi that were turned. I don't know which.
it's a good question. And El Profesor says, I love the casting for Leia.
Yeah, it's
Um,
great. I just don't like the character.
And the Outcast Creative says, so I want to make a Max Rebo short movie, Rebo's First Date. I think that's very funny. And kind of looking at a lot of this, Bloodsport 1 makes a good point. The kids change or raised on the dark side of the force. And I think it's very interesting because for a lot of the time we've been talking about people who went to the dark side willingly. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, we can't argue the fact that Anakin went to the dark side willingly. He went to the dark side willingly, right? He was seduced by the dark side.
Oh, the road to
So,
hell is paved with good intentions, isn't it? I mean, nobody. Um, I don't think anybody gets out of bed in the morning thinking that they're totally evil. And I just think that the dark side, when they say it's quicker, easier, and more seductive, it's the more seductive part is probably the key point of that. I mean, when you're a Jedi, you've got to sit around with your toe stuck up your ass, meditating for 10 years or whatever it is they have to do. Whereas with the dark side, you can access your emotions, your power, your rage. Which I would say, if you're a humanoid creature, your emotions are very much part of who you are and what makes up your character. So where's the harm? This is how, and I can do this stuff quicker. But of course, you're drawing on a different kind of battery, and it's going to corrupt you and all the rest of it in the end. Which is why you have to sit around for 10 years with your toe up your ass to learn to control and master your emotions, I guess.
yes, and some other interesting part of this is that we've seen light force users go to becoming dark force users. We've seen that. And
Hmm.
we've also seen somebody like Maul who was raised in the dark side his whole life. Like that's all he knows. He's not ever gonna, I mean, if he had lived longer, only God knows what he would have done with his life, but he's raised in the dark side. That's all he knows is the dark side. So but then my question is, what happens when someone is forced to go to the dark side? So this is forceful dark side. It's got to kind of crush you a bit. You have to be broken. All these kinds of questions that I have about someone who is supposed to be, um, you know, uh, a light side force user has been told that the dark side is something that you shouldn't tamper with, and now you're being forced to become a dark side user. So I think it's
Well,
kind of
if they won't force them in the end, will they? I mean, this is the point. They have to choose. that's that if you could be forced to be turned into a dark sider, then the Emperor and Vader would have forced Luke to join their side. But ultimately, the choice has to be yours. There has to be a compelling reason for you to want to do it. Even if it's a good reason, you want to save your family, but the only way you can do it, or you want to bring someone back from the dead as Darth Vader wanted to do, whichever it is. So I,
Yeah.
I think if you won't be turned, you will be destroyed. Right? That's
Or yeah, or you've been brought up in your whole life, like Maul was brought up.
Yeah,
That's his
or nothing else. But then you'd become a character like like that, wouldn't you? There wouldn't be any other way. Any other way would be seen as weakness. And when your whole moral code is based on that, that's going to be difficult to unpick.
right.
Um,
And Joker Voice says, "Good morning. Hello,
Hello,
Joker
Joker voice.
Voice." We are talking about uh Kenobi, of course. And Bloodsport One says some of the reasons why I guess he feels Reva is may have some beef with Kenobi is that Kenobi probably killed Reva's parents. Okay, that's interesting.
Potentially.
Yes, and Joker Voice also goes on to say Inquisitors were former Padawans or fallen disgraced Jedi. The Grand Inquisitor was a former temple guard. Oh, that's interesting. I'm
Well,
sure he got
thanks for
tired.
that.
Yeah, I'm sure he got tired guarding the temple. That's a like not a great job, right?
Mm.
Um the Outcast Creative says I have a different view. I think Reva's motivation for hunting Kenobi will turn out to be because she looked up to him as a youngling and she will blame him for not coming to save him and them and all the younglings. And I
I
think
think
that
so.
that one totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting. Joker Voice's new channel. Guys, go ahead and subscribe to Joker Voice on YouTube. Please do check his new channel out. The Outcast Creatives also says this might also link them into them turning off the beacon to recall the Jedi to defend the temple. Her backstory will have something to do with Kenobi viewed as turning his back on them to hide Luke, because initially the beacon said something like, I can't remember what the beacon said. It might have said, I can't remember what the original beacon said, but he's the one who put a beacon saying, don't come to the temple,
Mm.
it's dangerous or whatever. So I have to wonder about that. I can't remember what it said because they wanted to turn the beacon off and to warn people not to come there. So um Darth Plato says Riva seems to know too much about the connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and that Anakin is Vader. This is something that I'm curious about as well. Did they study information about Kenobi so that they could hunt him down? Um, these are all very interesting theories.
Yeah, but
And
isn't the fact that Anakin is Vader is a huge secret? Like nobody's supposed to know that. I guess because she's got such amazing mind reading abilities, perhaps she's even better than Darth Vader. I really hope she isn't, but maybe that's how they'll explain that
And
away.
well, Latino Slant makes a good point saying that he has a Riva theory and a video will be coming soon. So do check that out. And Tom Jr. Jackson says that Bloodsport also has a YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Bloodsport, guys, and check it out. Joker Voice says Maul's mother is the leader of the Night Sisters, an order of dark force which is on Darthamir. And you know what's interesting about Maul to me is supposedly he was kidnapped. And I could be wrong on that, but I think he
No,
was.
it was part of a deal, wasn't it? Didn't the Emperor Vader make a deal with the Dathomiri Night Sister Queen or something like that? It was part of some sort of pact. I think. I could be wrong now. I could be
No, you might be
misremembering as
right. You might be right. I'm not gonna say you're wrong, but I think there was some sort of, twisted thing that happened in the case with
well.
Maul. And, he wasn't supposed to be fully under, the dark sides, he wasn't supposed to be fully under that. He was supposed to maybe either still stay with the Night Sisters or be accessible, and he was kind of taken away in a sense. So, he was raised in the dark side, but the thing about it is that, um the Night Sisters, as far as I'm concerned, look at the Force as a religion from what I can understand, or at least the way I looked at it. And I think it's very interesting to think the reason why I'm so intrigued with the Night Sisters, if I were a Force user, I want to be a Night Sister, honestly. But the reason why I'm so intrigued with the Night Sisters is only because of how they view the Force differently from everyone else. Like it's part of their lives, of all of them, and what they can do and utilize the Force to do. So I think that they have a very interesting approach to The
Yeah, I
dark.
think it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I kind of it's almost like a sort of a Wiccan thing, a bit of a pagan thing going on with them, and I quite like the idea that the Force is a religion in the way that it kind of isn't for the Jedi, and they've got their own traditions which are uh, ultimately proven to be fruitless. Um, I was wondering about this when I was watching it. Um, Kenobi been the way that he is at the beginning of the show and constantly sort of being asked, how did you end up like this? How did you become like this? It almost seems like it's a bit of an apologist for what they did to Luke Skywalker. Well, this is how you become like a sort of bitter old Jedi who has no powers. It almost seemed like that they were sort of saying, "Look, see, it happened to Ben Kenobi, so it happened to Luke Skywalker." It smacked of that a little bit, a bit of sort of desperate retconning. We're going to get that in there. This is what happens to Jedi when they cut themselves off from the Force. They become depressed and grumpy, old, miserable old men. Actually, that just happens to us as we get older. You don't need the Force for that, really.
Yeah, apparently it happens to everyone, right?
Right.
And Darth Plato says Bastilla Shan was broken in the Knights of the Old Republic game, then came back. Interesting. So I guess you can be broken by someone, a dark side, and then come back into
Well,
the
Darth
light.
Vader.
Yes. Mark Mitchell says hello, hello, Russ. Just watched Kenobi and enjoyed it. Well, we're so glad that you did. Single songwriter says, "Hi, Art. Positive fandom. Yes, at Positive Fandom. Thank you so much, single songwriter. Maybe Reva blames Kenobi for failing Anakin and the fall of the Jedi Order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think this is where it's leading, right? She's holding Obi-Wan responsible for whatever, personally responsible. So he must have done something or not done something, or perhaps she was his Padawan, no, because he would recognize it, wouldn't he? I don't know, but it looks like it's going. Nobody's crossed with Yoda, are they? Nobody said, it was bloody Yoda's fault. He was in charge. Like everyone's holding Ben responsible. It's like, well, he was just obeying orders. Right? He wasn't even on the planet. He was on Geonosis or whatever it was
well,
called, wasn't it?
Obi-Wan is not on the council, though, is he?
Oh, Opportune. There you go. Yeah, he was in the end, I think.
Oh, in the
Uh,
end, but
yeah, Anakin wasn't. He wasn't
oh,
allowed.
okay.
Uh,
I wasn't quite sure. I couldn't remember if Obi-Wan was sitting around. I don't know if I ever saw him sitting around that council group, but maybe he didn't we didn't see scenes of it, but he might have still been on the council. So at
yeah, well,
that
they let they what was it? Anakin got a sort of guest spot on there, didn't he? At Palpatine's orders. And I'm sure because Obi-Wan was a Jedi Master by the end of it.
yes,
Anyway,
that's true. That's right. Yeah, and they said we're not going to grant you the title of master, but you can be on the council or something like that. That's right.
mhm.
Thank you. That's Joker Voice says Obi-Wan was in Utapau when Order 66 happened at the temple. She has no connection to Obi-Wan. Her obsession is purely a power play. Interesting.
Potentially.
Yeah. And also, let's see. I kind of lost my spot here. Um, let's see. Sorry.
That's
The
okay.
original beacon was calling all Jedi to the temple. That's right. Obi-Wan and Yoda disabled the beacon. That's right. And they put a warning or something saying, "Hey, don't come here." Um, and also, Reva did say she spent time looking through Jedi archives, so that could be why she blames Kenobi. Yeah, I suppose so. Um, yeah, maybe. Every time I think about the last few entries in there, I think about season 7 of the Clone Wars when Ahsoka is talking to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan tells Ahsoka that Anakin killed Dooku and they can't interrogate him. At least I think that was happened in the scene. And the look on Obi's face though at the time when she's talking to him, he looks really worried.
Mm.
And but at the same time, I don't know whether Ahsoka could sense something was wrong, but I think that might have been a good time for him to tell her, you know something, I think something terrible is about to happen. Or maybe they sensed it and they didn't say anything, but I just can't forget the look on Obi-Wan's face at that moment because I think maybe he was worried about Anakin too. But Joker Voice says Reva should not know Anakin is Vader. To my knowledge, only 3 people in the Imperial ranks know that secret. Secret. Palpatine, Tarkin, and Thrawn. This is
And
interesting.
wasn't the implication that Tarkin and Thrawn never had that confirmed? They just sort of worked it out. I think it's only the Emperor that really knows. Now, I could be wrong because it's been a while, but as far as I recall, I think that the implication is they just worked it out amongst themselves or to themselves. But yeah, she definitely shouldn't know. She definitely shouldn't know.
I myself was surprised at how much she did know. Why does she have so much access to these things? What do inquisitors know? These are some questions.
Well, I suppose, if you're looking at it from a writing perspective, like we, as Star Wars nerds to a greater or lesser extent, I'm not massively into it. I know a little bit about it. I know you're much more into it than I am. They've got to pad this out. They've got to provide general audiences with some sort of grounding. Okay, now we're all assuming, that everybody knows them. Maybe they don't. Like maybe they've not seen the prequels. Who knows? It's kind of like the old video game movie argument, isn't it? In most video game movie adaptations, they put in a character that has nothing to do with the game, so the audience can have a character to latch onto. Doesn't make any sense, but they do tend to do that. So I guess they're just filling in some backstory here that they're assuming that people don't know.
Right, exactly. And Tom Jr. Jackson says, when you see the look in Obi-Wan's eyes when he finds out Anakin is alive and is Vader, and calling out to Anakin, and then that back to tank scene, it is brilliant. It's terrifying.
Mm.
It really has a lot of scary, ominous feeling to it. He's crushed. Obi-Wan is crushed. She told him that to crush him. That
Well,
was,
that's right.
a
Because
blow.
he knows that he's Darth Vader, right? Because we see that bit in the. I do remember this from the third one. He sees the holocron, doesn't he? When the Emperor, raise Lord Vader, so he knows that Anakin is Vader. So Anakin's alive, right? Maybe he just hasn't heard of Darth Vader 10 years after the event. Maybe Vader is still unknown to the public, kind of thing.
Yeah, and Bloodsport One says, I would like to see the Night Sisters in Kenobi somehow, or in a Star Wars show. Yeah, that would be amazing. Single songwriter goes on to
Mm.
say, maybe the moment she told Kenobi about Anakin, that Anakin is Vader, is when we see Vader open his eyes, and we are led to believe it was because Kenobi, but could be Vader now. Now she knows. Now I hope I'm reading this right. Um, right, and we're led to believe it because Kenobi, but we could be Vader now. No, she
Oh,
knows.
right, I get it. Yeah, so maybe the moment she's talking to Kenobi about Anakin is Vader is when we see Vader open his eyes, and we are led to believe it was because of Kenobi. But is the reverse true? Is it Vader now knows that she knows, and maybe he's now annoyed that somebody knows his secret, and she's revealed herself to him? I think that's what he's driving at.
I think that would be very interesting. Who is Reva? This is something that we need to find out more about. And the only thing we know about Reva is from the Grand Inquisitor, who said that she started off, in at
In the gutter.
yeah. And I thought to myself, okay, what does that have to, like, it doesn't really say much about who she is. So,
Mm.
we just know where she came from, let's say at some point in time. So, all we know is that he says that she was there, but she was very disturbed by that comment. And I don't know whether she was disturbed by the comment because she is someone that is very special, but happened to be found or discovered, or for
Mm.
another reason. So, we need to find out more
Maybe.
about her.
Yeah, I hope I hope that this show doesn't become a Reva redemption story. I think it'd be great if she dies at the end, either at the hands of the Kenobi or at the hands of her own mates who she's turned against. I just think, I don't know, it would just be like, oh, now she's a good Jedi. Oh yeah. It's like, no, she's a baddie. Let's have her be a baddie and be a badass and a little bit less annoying.
Agreed. The Outcast creator says, I'm pretty sure we will see more in The Inquisitor as Rupert Friend is listed in all 6 episodes. He makes the point Reva is different. I think it's because he can still sense the good in her. and her over evil acts are all a ruse or compensation for this. Darth Plato says, "Wouldn't Vader be the one to blame?" Yeah, I suppose he would be the one to blame. He does seem to hold a lot of the cards here, but I also think that if I don't really know at this point when Vader was found on Mustafar all messed up, whether or not uh, the Emperor had more power over Vader at that point. So I don't think Vader could do anything to stop the projection of things. He might have been in recovery for a while, and then by the time he had his suit, which might have taken a little while, I don't know how long, I don't think it was the next day,
Mm.
and he discovered everything that's happened and everything that's been set in motion, he can't overturn or go back on a lot of the things. So, yeah, maybe he is to blame and the Emperor, but, yeah. Uh, and it says Riva did shout, "He will find you." And single songwriter, he's talking about Vader finding Kenobi, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
yeah,
that's when she's shaking her fist at the spaceship when it takes off.
yeah. So, and it says, of course, um, Vader knows who Riva is. All the Inquisitors operate directly under Vader. Yeah, and that was very terrifying too. The idea that you have to answer directly to Vader, I think, would be absolutely terrifying. But she is not supposed to know Vader is Anakin, and that could make Vader hunt her next. Well, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, maybe that's their intention. It is kind of perplexing.
Mm.
Um, and Ahsoka knows Vader is Anakin also by this point. So, and Retro Nerd Girl says Kenobi is not just a big catch to Riva, but for the Inquisition because he was one of the best Jedi. He is still a threat to the Empire if he's still alive. That's how I'm viewing it. For me, I kind of see I agree with that for sure. And I think she has a plan. Maybe she doesn't want to be an Inquisitor anymore. Maybe she wants to do other types of missions at this point, but it's uncertain what's going on here. Um
Yeah, um, yeah, Inquisitors might also know that's a good one.
That's very funny. Single songwriter, you get the brownie points on that one for sure. Thank you for that one. Um, Latina Slant says, correct, Retro. I'm in the timeline by now. It's all Jedi scraps except for Kenobi. This is all really interesting. You guys are certainly reminding us of where we are and what's been going on. Um, so Joker Voice does make a point saying that it does lay out groundwork for normies, but it does go against some established lore, and that is something that is
Yeah, but that would be predicated by the fact that Disney gives a shit about Star Wars lore, and frankly, we know that they don't. Otherwise, that we wouldn't have Legends, would we? We'd be using it. We'd be using the expanded universe to tell great stories, and not we can do it better than expanded universe Disney Star Wars. But that's just my opinion.
yeah. And the Outcast creator says, "I really don't want River to turn good. None of us want that."
No, no, but I'm worried. Are you not worried, Aram?
Yes, I am worried that she's going to turn out to be a good character. I think that would completely defeat the point of showing once again another Sith. I just want a normal Sith who is happy being a Sith. There has to be some happy Sith out there,
Well, Darth Maul
like
was
the
always a
Night
happy Sith,
Sisters,
wasn't he?
like the
Yeah,
Night Sisters.
and yeah.
And there's got to be other groups that use the
Well,
dark.
look at the Emperor. The Emperor, he just was having a ball, wasn't he? He was loving it. He was Sith and loving it. He was the kind of guy that got out of bed in the morning and wanted to be evil, and he just the way that that guy played it was just so it's just so funny watching it as an adult. I can feel it swelling. It's
And
just
he,
stop it.
you know, McDermott did mention that that character where he had to play in his conversation with the Emperor or conversation with McDermott,
Mm.
said that he knew he had to play the character as just an average politician. He couldn't be an outstanding one.
Mhm.
He had to always sort of be under the radar, so he had to kind of just be an average politician and, do average politician things and not be too, stand out or spectacular, or else that would, make his, presence known. So,
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting, how Riva could take that approach, just be, the average inquisitor, and not draw so much attention to herself because, drawing attention to yourself, I think in the empire is not necessarily a great thing.
Well,
Um,
it's pretty dumb if you're in the Inquisition, you
yes,
know, telling the not even just like, one of the other Inquisitors, but the Grand Inquisitor, "Oh, no, fuck off, I'm gonna do it my way." Yeah, it's probably gonna get you killed. And, if we realistically would have done, he wouldn't have they wouldn't have put up with her shit because it's not the first time she's gone off, she's got a history of doing this, and no one's that valuable, I don't think.
exactly. And I just don't think that they would put up with it. As you said, I think that she would have been dealt with already. Um, a single songwriter says the Kenobi show is just the start of the rebellion, and it could also tie into the Andor series, which is also the rebellion beginnings. Yes. And Joker Voice says Riva should already be dead. Vader does not tolerate insubordination of any in his underlings. The Grand Inquisitor would have killed her, if only to preserve himself. Um, and here it says, Riva shaking her fist as Darth Vader prequels, no moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And excuse me, Latino Slant says, so Obi-Wan cut himself off from the Force
Mm.
for those 10 years. Didn't train to commune properly with Qui-Gon, so he would.
Maybe
Um,
that's part of another conversation that we might have missed, but Paulie makes a good point here. Um, you know, he has cut himself off from the force, and we can see that very, very clearly because you know, I kind of found myself wondering, well, we know from the prequels that they can leap over things and they're incredibly fast and they can do all this kind of stuff. But then when she falls off the building, it's like a massive effort for him to catch her. Like he can't do it at first. It's almost like it's a callback to Luke in the what is it, a Wampa beast? I can't remember what it's called. The ice beast,
right.
on Hoth when he's trying to get his lightsaber, and it takes him ages to do it. And the Princess Leia falling was a near miss. So yeah, hence why Qui Gon isn't on the Jedi phone.
Yes. And we also have a comment by Brother Cousin Review says that I like the idea of Riva overcompensating, fighting against the good that is still inside of her, kind of like Ben Solo.
Yeah, but
Um,
this is the point, isn't it, brother's cousin? It's like, okay, so Darth Vader was redeemed, Ben Solo eventually was redeemed, and now we're going to have another, like you said, Aram, another Sith that starts off really evil and petulant. And this seems to be actually their style of writing, isn't it? Because everyone was sort of like got cross with the way that Kylo Ren was written as sort of like a being an emo and smashing the place up and been throwing his toys out of the plan. And now you've got almost like this rebellious teen inquisitor that's just not doing what she's told, and that seems to be how they think that they're edge lords or whatever. This is how they write those characters. Um, but yeah, keep her evil. It will suck if this is just another redemption story for another Sith, or at least if you're going to do that, have her die. I don't want a Reva spin-off. I don't want a Reva spin-off.
Mario Lopez says, I think Ahsoka does not know Vader is Anakin at this time because the show is prior to Rebels. But didn't she? I mean, I thought maybe at the end of prior to Rebels.
That's Disney Star Wars, is it? Rebels, is that canon?
Yes, but didn't she suspect, what had happened? Yeah, maybe she doesn't know he's Vader. She knows he went to the dark side, but maybe she doesn't know it's Vader because I thought she felt Order 66. Yeah, maybe she doesn't know. This is a good question. Um, yeah, I'm not sure, Mario. And it says, well, Disney has picked apart lore for their liking.
Yeah.
That is incredibly correct. They sure have done something like that. Excuse me. A single songwriter comments on Brother Cousins. He says, you can sense it in her. and the Inquisitors don't like her impulse and obsession to Kenobi. That's interesting. Um, so a lot of people are feeling that she is does have good in her, and maybe that's why they don't like
But
her.
this is kind of the thing. This is why it's not really landing so well, isn't it? Because actually, let's say, okay, well, she's overcompensating or whatever. She's the one that keeps going around threatening to cut people's heads off and do all this stuff. Whereas the other Inquisitor's just like, fucking leave it. We'll find him. There's no need to kill this whole village. You know, we can find. We've got the Force on our side. Remember, and so it's almost like she's more trying to be more evil than they are, and they're the evilest of the evil, and they're a little bit more chilled. Yeah, I think it's just that the performance and what she's been given as well. It's not helping that character.
It's not. And Single Songwriter says the rebellion has existed covertly for some time. Ahsoka is the top intel as Fulcrum, right? That's right. And that's a good point.
How
Um,
long are so this is 10, what is this, 10 years after Order 66? Is that what we're saying? So when did the rebellion kick off? How many
I
years
have no
ago?
idea. I don't
Someone
know.
will know. Star Wars nerds
Yeah,
will know that.
someone will know. And Retro Nerd Girl says, I have a suspicion that Darth Vader is going to kill Reva because she knows too much and ultimately she failed letting Kenobi escape. Yeah, maybe he will. Maybe we're going to
I
see a
hope
few
so.
more deaths. She may not be, I don't know if her name is listed on the cast for all episodes, but and Popsicle, hello Popsicle, says, I'm too worried that she won't remain a villain.
Sorry, Aram. I just want to make a comment
Yes.
on all of this because this is the one point that we're all agreeing on is like, please don't do this. And this is the problem we have with these shows. There's such a reticence. I can almost feel it in the fan community, and I don't know what you saw. It probably was different at Star Wars Celebration. Probably everybody was whooping and cheering and saying it was the best thing ever. But there's such a reticence within me to sort of get into this and ultimately have it be shit. That's really and it's so wrong of me to feel like that because I should be going, no, no, come on, it'll be fine. But I'm already starting to see things that I didn't like in it, and this whole is she going to turn out to be a goodie in the end thing? It's not just me thinking it. Retro Noah girls thinking it. You know, Outcasts are thinking it. Everyone's Paulie's thinking it. It's like, don't you kind of know that that's what's going to happen? given given the track record of the way that these shows have gone before, because I kind of figure that's what they're going to do, and we're all going, please don't do that, but you kind of know that that's what's going to happen, and that's a shame that we can't be leaping, or no, that all of us can't be leaping. I'm sure some people are leaping up and down saying it's the great thing ever. Mikey Litter says at the beginning, actually, I don't get all the hate. I don't get all the hate. I understand the hate for Boba Fett. That was a complete recharacterization of a dearly beloved character. But there's nothing to hate in this. It's just a bit, yeah, it's got some issues. I don't understand what the hate is either.
And Single Songwriter says, now that Kenobi tapped back into the Force, I bet he will hear from Qui-Gon in one of the next 4 episodes. And that's really interesting and important to note. We know that Grogu kind of pushed aside his Force abilities for a little while and what that did to him.
Mm.
The same would happen with Obi-Wan if he decided for 10 years not to even use the Force or stay away from it. You know, he's not going to be able to speak to anybody or even do anything. Now, this might be pulling some of that Force out. And then, is it fair enough to assume that if this is the case, he hasn't done anything for 10 years, then he's obviously not training Luke. He hasn't been training Luke since he was born, just watching over him. So, that is something that's very interesting too. So then does that mean that Luke never learned how to use the Force until
Well, we
after the
know he doesn't. We know that from from canon. Like
yeah,
he said you should learn the ways of the Force like your father or something. That's the quote he says. Um, So yeah, he certainly doesn't. Who knows? Maybe he'll disappear off. No, he's going to stay on Tatooine. I don't know. They're going to have to try and make some sense of it, or they probably just might just brush it under the carpet.
yeah, and of course, Paulie mentions that Yoda chose Dagobah for a very specific reason because of
Yeah,
I
it was strong with the dark side. That tree, that's where he lives, right by the tree that's smothered in the dark side, doesn't he? So he
yeah,
can hide himself, so he can still get away with lifting up X-wings and things like that because it's going to go under a wire.
exactly. And Six Scale Separatist says, I think that's why Mandalorian was so good. It was completely new story. trying to catch lightning in a bottle using legend characters, as Yoda would say, is why you fail.
I would argue the toss on that. I think Mandalorian is the only thing that united the Star Wars fan base. Okay, there were some fans of Boba Fett. A lot of people were pissed off with Boba Fett. I think it's the majority of fans hated the sequels. Like, I think people were willing to give the first one a pass, even though it was a remake of the first one. The second one just split people down the middle. My friend once likened it to sort of Ryan Johnson coming along with uh, a vase with Star Wars Legacy written on it and just smashing it on the floor is the second movie, and then JJ Abrams is like trying to put it all back together with his super glue, and it just looks a bit shit and wonky and doesn't really quite work, and that's kind of the third movie. But yeah, uh,
And the
so so why not adapt the expanded universe stuff, Heir of the Empire, all that kind of thing that again was universally loved. Mara Jade, all of these things. Was it Jason Solar? Or yeah, all that shit. Everybody loved that. But no, has a deadbeat dad. Luke's a failure. But all of that didn't fly. So I would argue the tossed. Sorry.
Well, the Outcast creative says Max Rebo should turn out to be Reva's father.
Yeah, maybe he is.
So it says, Tom Jr. Jackson says, so have you noticed how Obi-Wan cut himself off from the Force and sort of in hiding? Luke sort of did the same thing in The Last Jedi. So maybe somewhere in between Obi-Wan told Luke what he did.
You touched on this earlier on, and I think that they're almost putting that in there to sort of say, see, this is what happens to Jedi's when they cut themselves. They turn into grumpy old men. It's like, no, we didn't want grumpy blue or green milk drinking Luke. Nobody wanted that. Everybody just wanted Luke, Han, and Leia in the Millennium Falcon for a minute doing something that would have been nice. But I'm not sure it's an arrogance. I just think people don't want to see that. They want to see something new. And
You
yes,
know,
they do and they don't.
I
Look at
think
Cobra Kai.
I think that they could have all ended up together, but as a happenstance versus yeah, let's all meet at 5 o'clock.
Mm-mm.
They all happenstance to be in the same place at the same time, and that would have worked too, and perhaps have been more realistic. Yeah, single songwriter. She did find out during the Clone Wars series, and if I remember correctly, it was an episode where she's with the crew, and she's in the shuttle with I can't remember the character's name, but she senses Darth Vader while she's inside the shuttle, and they have to confront Vader, I guess, when one of the characters has that holocron or something like that. So anyway, they go to this temple, and while she's in the shuttle, she realizes she says something like, "I haven't felt that for a long time." I actually like Ahsoka as Fulcrum in Rebels. I thought it was Rebels that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was Clone Wars, but I thought it was Rebels where she found out. Okay. Turo says, "Good morning, RM. Watching with a cup of coffee and pandils. Hello, Turo. Thank you so much for joining us this morning." Um, and it says, Darth Plato says, "The rebellion didn't really begin. It was merely the continuation of the Old Republic. Likewise, when the Empire falls, the rebellion returns to the Republic." Interesting. Um, well, what I was gonna say is, do we know when the next episode of Obi-Wan is going to come out? Do we know? Because they had changed the time and the date for the
Don't
first
know. Those
episode.
with Disney Plus will know, won't they? Because it'll be queued up on there.
Yes. And a lot of people are mentioning um that there is some hate towards it. But they
But
were
based on what do we know?
I'm sorry?
Based on what?
I'm not sure.
Because yeah.
I'm not sure, but what I can say is, because I haven't watched as many reviews as I'd liked, I haven't had a lot of time just this past week to do that. Mario Lopez says, "I heard that Kenobi had reshoots because Disney thought the series was too dark." Unfortunately, they continue to treat Star Wars as something that's just for kids.
Yeah, what do you think, RM? I would like to speak to this as well.
Yeah, I wanted this series to be as like the darkest thing we've ever seen in our lives, especially since they one of the promotional photos that they had for Kenobi had everybody kind of like in a dark blue light.
Mm,
And I thought that that was an indication that, things really horrible things are gonna happen, and I did wanna see some terrifying, shocking things happen that kind of make you very scared, maybe even of the dark side more than what we might be scared of it.
I
So
couldn't agree more. One of my big regrets. Someone was talking about catching lightning in a bottle twice. I think George Lucas tried to do that with with the prequels, and I've never changed my mind on this. And I've always thought that the prequels, should have been written for the audience that had grown up with Star Wars. So if you're not going to make them hard R movies, at least make them AAs or PG 15. You have to be 16 to watch these. You can't. They're not for children. You can be a sort of teenager, and made those really really dark. So I kind of come down with Bloodsport here as well, especially now, because you have to wonder how many 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 year olds are turning on the original trilogy or Mandalorian for the first time and becoming absolute Star Wars devotees, as we all did back in the day. I've said this so many times. There's so much stuff competing for your attention now. You Kenobi one week and or the next, whatever's coming out, Moon Knight. There's always something new for kids to get into. So yeah, I really wish, if I could go back and I could, be a force ghost or whatever, I'd say to George, look, don't make this a universal certificate. Make this for teenagers, and make the next one for the 18-year-olds, and make the third one the Revenge of the Sith. Make it a fucking horror movie, and people will love you for it. And I think they could have carried on with that. I would love to have seen that really scary Star Wars. Would have been awesome.
yeah, and Wednesday is when the next episode drops.
Okay.
Thank you, Joker Voice. Six Scale Separatist says, I meant you don't need to use legend characters to tell a good story. I thought it was refreshing to be introduced to a new main character like Mando and Grogu.
Yeah,
Um,
concur.
Sweet. Yes, and, Single Songwriter does say it's 3 days away, thank you. Um, and then, one other thing I wanted to say was, so I think that, honestly, just in general, um I liked the series so far. I wish there were more episodes. I think that it could have also, some of the parts of this story could have also made a good like trilogy movie. But I guess it's more or less very similar to what we're expecting or what we're experiencing. But we do have some other stories that we're going to talk about today. And I can't believe we talked for an hour and a half
Mhm.
about
Yeah, I have to say, Aram, I've got a bit of a hard stop as well at the 2 hour mark. I've got to get going to my stepfather's, so I can't really hang out too much longer than that.
Yes, excuse me. And there have been some other stories that have come out during celebration. The Willow series was kind of introduced.
Oh my God. Did you see the trailer?
I did see the trailer.
How good was that?
It was
How good was
fantastic.
that?
It was wonderful. I just thought that for them to bring that back and for us to have something like that was just wonderful. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think that it was nice. The actor was also there at Star Wars Celebration.
Was
So
it
that
Warwick Davis
yes, and of course as you know, he was in Star Wars as well.
as an
Um,
Ewok? Yeah.
yeah,
He was in the prequels as well. You saw him wandering
right.
around as I think he was watching the pod race or something like that.
That's right, and, to kind of see him come back and still be part of the process, we've enjoyed his performances so much. It really is great to see him, he looked well. I didn't see him personally, I saw it, in a video, but he was there at Star Wars Celebration this week to announce it, and I think that that's going to be something, that I really am, excited in seeing. Um, And Turo says, I watch YouTubers like and others as a filter prior to watching a series, movie, or comic in order not to sour the good memories I have of these stories. There's way too much propaganda now. Yeah. And I think I'm so glad that you watch our show, Turo. We do appreciate you being here. I think that it's
Absolutely.
interesting to have someone do that. Um, and Tom Jr. Jackson mentions they brought back Joanne Walmy, and Val Kilmer's character is a huge part of the show, from what I hear.
I read an article that you shared that they said that yeah, his presence looms large in it. He's going to be a big part of the show. As to whether he will be in the show or not, I don't know. It depends on how well he is, because obviously he's got that. But they, he can just mime and they can have a Val Kilmer impersonator. But it depends on his actual fitness, his physicality. Is because I don't think it would be fair to him or the character to have someone that's not in their full bloom like Jimmy Smits, who's in his 60s, sort of wandering around being, good old Jimmy Smits. We don't, I don't know if they would want to put Val Kilmer, a sick Val Kilmer, in that position. But if he's on the road to recovery, please God he is, then more power to them. I hope we see more of Val Kilmer. He was in Top Gun, which I haven't seen yet, but I can't wait to see. Everyone's telling me go and see it, go and see it. It's
I'm
a real.
excited to see Top Gun. It's doing very well in the box office, from what I understand. And I'm excited to see it as well. I haven't seen it. Um, I know that Val Kilmer had a documentary about himself, which came out recently,
I
and his
watched
son
it.
was doing the voice, right, Russ?
Hmm.
He sounded just like his father. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if his son continued to do that if needed, to do some voiceovers for his father, which I think is very, very creative. Joker voice, thank you so much, Six Scale Separatists, for the kind words about
Thank
the
you.
discussions today. Everybody did have interesting takes,
Mm.
and I welcome them and I'm grateful for them. Joker voice has to go. He has a live stream coming in a few hours. Have a great day to you, um, Joker voice. If you ever need another guest, just saying, well, thank you, Joker voice, for letting us know. You enjoy the rest of your day to day for sure. And before we actually wrap this up, we do have Rogue Thinker who's here with us.
Oh, hello, Rogue.
Hello and farewell. Catch you another time. Have a great stream. Thank you so much, Rogue Thinker, as well as Stubble McShave, who is here. Hello, Stubble. Yeah, Stubble says Joanne Wally was a big movie crush for me in the original Willie. She's a beautiful woman,
She
wonderful
was so
actress.
hot in the first one as well. She was evil that turned good, but she did that was good. I like that. That was okay. She was fine.
Yeah, it was she played that role very well. I thought
Mm.
she was excellent in that.
Sorsha.
Yes, and, it was just amazing. There's, like, actually one scene where she kicks him in the face, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And
'cause
see,
he's
that movie
"I
was
love
such good
you."
fun, wasn't it? That you see, that was a kids' movie, and I'm fine with that. I just wanted to swing back to something
Yes.
before we move on.
Yeah.
I think it was Tom Jr. Jackson was saying, "Why is everything? What's the obsession with hard R? Why has everything got to be hard R rated?" I would just go back to what I was saying before. When you're directing your IPs at children, the landscape has changed. Obviously, it's changed from the 70s and from the 90s, right? And I just don't think that children are as interested in these beloved properties, like they're beloved properties to an older set. So when we're saying we would like it R-rated, it's more to say we'd like more mature storylines dealing with more adult themes, and not, for example, in Obi-Wan, they've based the whole plot around, Princess Leia, and Princess Leia is going to be a huge part of this. Essentially, Princess Leia is just like, a sort of kiddie insert into the movie so kids can relate to it. So there's a kid thing in it, and it should, I just find the character irritating. But there's that constant, oh, look at the cute little girl, look at her being cute and doing the cute things. A bit like your beloved Grogu in a way. He's definitely one for the kids. So I think, Tom, it's more to do with the maturity of the storytelling. Like some really bad shit could have gone down. If you make this R-rated, imagine why Bale Organa would be reaching out, or whoever is reaching out to Obi-Wan, like maybe Qui-Gon, whoever. Something horrific could have happened, and then we could deal with that, but we can't because we're in a U certificate universe.
Yes, and I think that there needs to be a variety. of adult films as well. So, everything could, be all PG-13 for the rest of our existence, but I think there does need to be a variety
Mm,
of theatrical choices, and you will have to delve into the R or X-rated areas some of the time in order to get that variety in cinema. Um, as well. And I think we can all agree that some fight scenes and combat scenes where we see soldiers getting blown up
mm,
is not appropriate for children. So those are scenes that we are going to see going forward and will be R-rated films. At least I think they should be. Um, so those are things that are going to be still, we're still going to be seeing. Um, and it's appropriate that for a movie or a show or a series called Star Wars,
mm,
that if it has the word war in it, it's going to have some R-rated content. So, I think that that's interesting. And I think that Darth Plato's, well, first of all, Marco's Blind Gaming. Hello. I can't wait to see Top Gun. Nice to see you, Marcos Blind Gaming. Um, Darth Plato makes a point here about the choice between hard R or watered down for kids, but that's why you have children's shows. There can be children's versions of the Star Wars sagas as well and series. They even have, I can't remember what it's called. It's not it's the one that came out after Rebels that was geared towards children, and I think that's fine. I think it's wonderful to have series geared towards children. Um, at the same time have series geared towards adults as well. More mature content that children probably should not be seeing or would have any interest in. So there's always going to be that need to have a variety in, at least in that regard, for me.
mm.
Um, and the Outcast Creative comments that Willow is the very first film he saw in the United States in 1988 in Utica. Well, that sounds like Utica. Is it Utica, New York? Um, I hated the fact that the original UK release of the movie was heavily cut for violence. Oh, I had no idea about that. For me, my favorite, my still favorite part of the film is when he's under this spell. I think it's him, and he tells her that he loves her, and she kicks him in the face. So
Yeah.
that was maybe one of the most I just was like, wow, he's really under this spell, and it just showed kind of the reality of the situation that we were dealing with for it to turn around into a love story was quite compelling. So uh but also Warwick Davis got a lot of brunt, of violence against him too in the film. So it was kind of, there was a bit of realism in it
Mhm.
for me. It wasn't all hearts and flowers. They were really mean to Warwick Davis. It was it was a real story. It wasn't,
It
this
was
is
great. It was great. I'm surprised there hasn't been a sequel beforehand, but yeah, I that sort of thing. You don't mind if it's going to be goofy and one for the kids. That's absolutely fine. I just don't think it has the fanatical fan base that Star Wars has. I could be wrong.
yes. And Single Songwriter says if Mando can cut someone in half in the Book of Boba Fett, I'm sure we will have some dark scenes in Kenobi. Well, we just saw somebody get their hand chopped off, and then
Mm.
someone get impaled with a lightsaber. So I feel kind of good with those, but I would like to see more. Some Mando even injured himself. Right, he burned himself on the lightsaber. you know I mean, I think that they kind of had fun with that, because I think a lot of these characters, that there are perceptions of them being perfect, and I'm like, good, let him have his situations where he's trying to handle this and he's like, oh no, that kind of hurt.
Mhm.
So and Stubble says that Leah is the MacGuffin in Obi-Wan.
Yeah, kind of.
And we're nearing the 2-hour mark, Russ.
Mhm.
um they're talking about a good point that Outcast Creatives makes, and I guess we kind of end on this topic, is the fact that Willow was not as financially successful as they thought it would be. I thought it was fantastic, but it's great. It's gained a cult following over the years.
You'd
Um,
wonder why there was no straight to DVD stuff, because that was a thing for a number of years. Like Bloodsport was a massive hit. They made it for $50 and it made hundreds of millions of dollars. Um, but they couldn't get Van Damme back for another one because he had a 3-film contract, I think, with Canon. So they just went ahead and made a bunch of direct sequels to Bloodsport and a bunch of sequels to Kickboxer, nothing of which had, were sort of loosely connected to the first movies, but they were just straight to DVD. I wonder why they didn't do that with Willow, but great, we got it now.
Yes, and Michaelito says Rogue One was the movie that introduced me into Star Wars. I was always a Star Trek guy prior to Rogue One, which is why I agree with R&B about New Trek. And Michaelito, I watched the new episode of New Trek. I don't have enough time to discuss it today, but maybe you and I will discuss it in a video, Michaelito, to have some conversation about that. So thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, as we wrap this up, on behalf of Positive Fandom, Russ Whitfield and myself, we want to thank you for coming out and joining us for another episode of Sunday Brunch, everybody, live. Join us next week for an all new episode. Russ, where can people find you?
Here mainly, and I have a website which is russellwhitfield.com. You can email me at contact@russellwhitfield.com. I am on Facebook, but it's not like an author page or anything like that. It's just me. So, but I hardly go on there. But more importantly, where can we find you?
Yes, everybody, you can always find me here on my channel, Positive Fandom YouTube, as well as Twitch. I stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time when I do my shows. So you can watch me on either channel. Also, you can find me on Monday night streaming with Lorraine Creel and Nina Infinity on Toxic Femininity. Sometimes on Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network with Lael Rockwell on either Say What or Uncivilized Scoundrels. You can also find me streaming with Lorraine Creel on her new show, Toxic Male Appreciation, where we talk about all the men that we enjoy in the Hollywood scene, but also wonderful attributes of men that we love. So do check that out as well. On Friday afternoons, you can find me on Midnight's Edge in the Morning with Tom Connors and Andre at 12 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes on the weekends, you can find me streaming on the Post Geek Singularity channel with Robert Meyer Burnett. And of course, on Sundays, you can catch me here on my Sunday brunch show here at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do all the parlay in the fandom. So that's where you can find me. And thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Um, Darth Plato, I love you for saying I'm the Grogu Keeper. I do have another show coming out with Russ,
Oh,
with Lance from the Outcast Creative, our history series, which I have yet to premiere. I did not have enough time to premiere it this week, but it will be premiering next week. So
yeah, I was
do
pretty drunk by the end of that one.
be on the lookout for that. We're going to be talking about historical films. So those of you who love historical films, definitely check out this new series, everybody. And on behalf of Russ and myself and Tom Jr. Jackson, we are all goof people. Um, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Please check the chat again and subscribe to everyone's channel that we mentioned today. You all are great out there. I really do appreciate everybody who was here. Thank you so much for your kind words. And remember, everybody, no matter where you are out in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind.
Cheers,
Take care.
everyone. Thanks so much.